Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your home for all things related to helping you on your journey to find that amazing job. Each episode I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, graduate recruiters and career coaches who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute-ish show. Put simply, this is a show I wish I had when I graduated. Welcome, dear listener, to the Graduate Job Podcast. And I'm thrilled to have you with me today as I've got a very special episode and a very special guest. As today, I speak with Jack. Now, who is Jack, I hear you cry? Well, Jack is just like you. He's a listener of the show and he is the founding member of the How to Get a Graduate Job course, which I launched last September. Now, if you're new to the show, you might not have a clue what I'm talking about, so let me quickly fill you in. I distilled down all of my years of coaching experience of helping people get graduate jobs, of being on both sides of the graduate recruitment fence, from applying for jobs myself through to assessing people as they applied for graduate schemes. And I've distilled this down into one step-by-step through to assessing people as they applied for graduate schemes. And I've distilled this down into one step-by-step course of 16 hours of video tutorial content, how-to guides, templates, and a load more. Basically, if you need to know it or to do it to get a graduate job, then it's in this course, which is cunningly called How to Get a Graduate Job, and which you can find at howtogetagraduatejob.com. So I launched the course in September and Jack was the very first person who bought it. And today, Jack joins you on the show to talk through his experiences of applying for graduate jobs, specifically in finance and accounting with the Big Four and a host of other firms. Now, it's a great episode. He's a current final year student and he shares his insights of how he juggled the applications with his uni work, the struggles he went through, advice at each stage of the process, including just how long you can expect to be waiting at each of the different errors and mistakes that he made along the way, and his advice of what you need to do to get a graduate job. No matter what type of graduate job you're applying to. Accounting, finance, banking, logistics, consulting, law. Look, you name it, Jack is going to share insider tips to help you perform and stand out from the crowd. Now, the only link you need to remember today, other than howtogetagraduatejob.com, is the show notes, which you can find over at graduatejobpodcast.com/Jack, which has links to everything that we discuss. So, without further ado, let's head across to my chat with Jack. I'm very pleased to welcome to the show today, listener to the podcast and alumni from the How to Get a Graduate Job course. Jack, welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast.
Cheers, James. Good to be here.
And it's great to get you on the show today. And we will delve into how you have not one, but you have two offers for massive graduate schemes in your back pocket at the moment that you are currently debating over. So, well, maybe not debating anymore. So we'll go through how you came about to be greedy and get those two offers over the course of the last couple of months. But yeah, it would be good to get your insights and to share your thoughts with the listeners today.
No, definitely glad to be on, and I want to share, my kind of story of how I've come to get the offers, and hopefully it can be helpful for anyone else listening.
Excellent. So let's kick off then. And do you want to give a brief introduction and background to yourself and, where you've studied and the types of jobs you've been applying for?
Yeah, so hi everyone. Really, really glad to be on there. My name's Jack and I study at Reading University. Last academic year, I did a placement, had some experience of the application process, how to go about getting, a placement, internship or a graduate job. The placement I was doing at the time gave me some really great experience. However, it wasn't what I wanted to do kind of for my future career and, for my first graduate job. Therefore, when I was kind of on my year out, I was thinking about what different graduate jobs I wanted to do, and also how I could go about being more successful in the process, because when I was applying for placements, it was a bit of a scattergun approach, and I was kind of got a lot of rejections until I finally got the placement that I did. So I basically just wanted to kind of get some extra help and support to make sure that I got the graduate job that I really wanted and was going to kind of see me through another successful career.
Excellent. And do you want to, what type of graduate jobs have you been applying for?
Yeah, so I actually did an economist placement at HMRC. Like I said, it's really, really great experience. And I wanted to take elements of that job into my kind of graduate job. So I took the tax side of it, but I decided I wanted to work in kind of accounting, consultancy, to be able to kind of make use of my interpersonal skills. So I decided to apply for tax accounting graduate jobs. So this involved kind of sending applications to the Big Four and other big accountancy firms in the UK.
Excellent. And we'll talk through the process of the different application stages for the Big Four and those other big accounting firms that people will know the names of, but we'll anonymize them just to protect the guilty and the innocent with those. So before we get into it then, so you talked about having applied for internships last year. What made you to sign up for the course? I mean, you were actually the first person to sign up for the course, and you kept on pushing me when I was pushing the date back with the go live date for when it was going to launch. What made you know that you wanted to get that extra help?
Yeah, so I think the main thing was obviously, first of all, having the placement experience. Not only did that give me the kind of the job experience I wanted, but it also got me thinking more and more about my graduate career. So I think when you're at university, it's very easy to fly through from year to year, doing your exams, having the summer off, coming back. It just goes so quick. Whereas on my placement, I really had the time to think about actually, what do I want to do? Started thinking about it quite early on when I kind of realised my placement wasn't necessarily for me long term. And then over the summer periods, obviously, COVID happened this year, so it meant that kind of had a bit more time. COVID happened this year, so it meant that kind of had a bit more time on my hands. And instantly, my kind of thoughts when I was coming to the end of my placement was, right, okay, well, what's next? How am I going to go about getting this kind of dream graduate job? So I had the experience from the placement, but I also just thought, right, well, let's see what other resources are out there. And yeah, I like listening to podcasts. I literally just searched into my kind of usual podcast provider, graduate job or graduate, just to see what comes up. And I just started listening to the show, really enjoyed it. And also I listened to an interview with someone you coached last year, and you'd spoken about how, you'd help them get a graduate job at the Big Four. So I just thought, well, I'm going to get in contact with you, James. And also when you spoke about the course coming out, I just thought that would be ideal and give me that extra support I needed on top of my kind of experience of the process before to really propel me to the next level to be able to get that right graduate job.
Excellent. And you've done well with balancing not only your academics but also with the companies that you've applied to and going through the process for. So we'll maybe talk about that balance later on. So let's start at the beginning of the process then. And I guess since you wanted to apply for the big accounting firms, that really narrowed it down for you. Did you think about applying to any non-accountancies, or were you just always laser focused on, you knew that you wanted to apply for the Big Four, as you mentioned, and the other large accounting firms?
Yeah, I did narrow it down to, like I say, the tax accounting roles, and that was definitely my main aim because I felt I had obviously the right experience, and I've done a lot of research and talking to people, and I've decided that would be a good area which I would enjoy and develop the skills I wanted. That would be a good area which I would enjoy and develop the skills I wanted. That was very much the focus, but I think as we'll talk about later, when you kind of have that dip of not hearing from applications, kind of going through that process, sometimes you do wander from that and sending applications to other kind of jobs. So I did put in a few applications for more finance graduate schemes but the main focus was definitely the tax accounting role, and the accounting firms was the main aim.
Yeah, and I think that really played into your favour as well once we got into the interview stage and the assessment centre stage. So we were just talking offline about the feedback you got from your most recent assessment centre, where they broke it down with what you did really, really well, and it was one of the core strengths was that motivation for why tax accounting. And when you do really narrow down your focus, whether it's tax accounting of why you want to work in this industry, if you do, it is the industry that you really want and that they are only the companies you're applying for, you can just be really strong, and that really comes across well that this is the one for me. Did you find that was the case with the motivation questions?
100%. I think in every interview I've done, the career motivation was the strongest point. And I think it also, it just narrowing down that focus just means that you're not also kind of duplicating work. And spending more time. So by going for the same roles, they all had similar application processes. They asked you similar questions at the video interview stage. And then again, the assessment centres were quite similar as well. So it means that you can be a lot more focused, save time, but then it does really pay off because you're able to then tailor the answers and kind of applications to suit that and kind of applications to suit that particular role, and you're not kind of having to change it all the time. And that's what I found when I'd applied for placements. I was applying to lots of different things. Didn't actually apply to accounting firms back then, but I was applying to finance, I was applying to government, I was applying for business management, and actually that just meant I was spending a lot more time changing the applications, getting ready for different assessments. And because I was spreading myself too thin, that I actually ended up with a lot of rejection. So that was one of the main reasons for narrowing it down so much.
Yep. No, and mentally it does really take the load off, because you don't have shiny red ball syndrome of just chasing another application or another graduate scheme that's open that isn't really what you want to do, but it's open. So just banging an application for it, you're able to just stay really focused, as you mentioned. Let's maybe then move to the different stages of the application process. So just looking at your tracker that we've got for tracking all the applications you submitted, and I think you had 100% success rate, didn't you, with the initial application stage for applying for these types of roles. Do you want to talk listeners through your experiences of that initial application stage and what it was that they wanted?
Yeah, sure. So for the accounting firms, a lot of them don't require cover letters, and the big four just need an application form. So, but in terms of the CVs, a lot of them did require CVs. So I'd never actually done this with my previous applications, was actually tailor my CV to that particular role. Mm-hmm. So I'd always just kind of had my bog standard CV, and that would just get sent out to everyone pretty much. But this time round, what I did was I looked at sent it out to everyone pretty much. But this time round, what I did was I looked at the job descriptions for these roles, noted down the skills that they wanted, and if they mentioned any experience, anything like that, I'd make sure I'd play that up. And then the skills which I had a strength skills-based CV. The skills that they wanted, I made sure they were clear in my CV for them to see, really. So, even if you don't need, some people just think it's tailoring the cover letter, I would actually stress that you need to tailor your CV as well and make sure, I had a different CV for every company I applied for. Same experiences, but like I said, just playing up different skills. Yep. And then I did have to do a couple of cover letters, but not as much this time round because, like I say, the firms I was applying for didn't really require cover letters.
Oh, brilliant. And, that's one of the things that I really stress in the course is the need for just why you need to tailor the CV, and also just how to go about doing it so that you are giving them exactly what they wanted. And the proof was in the pudding there with the fact that you got through every initial application stage, which is really, really well done. What's the stat? 75% of people fail at this stage. So you were doing really well getting through them.
Yeah, there's one more thing to add to that. I think Yeah, first of all, I got my CV checked by the University Career Service, which was helpful. But then also part of the course, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, had webinars with other members. And I remember one of the first ones, we all sent in our most recent cover letters, CVs, and also sent in the job description that it was aimed for. And that was just really helpful to see how you're kind of picking out the improvements, how to work in those kind of skills and other things that they mentioned. You know, some of them say really stressed, you know, the customer service element. So making sure you had that in there. So that those webinars and that one in particular was really helpful for the tailoring of the CVs and the cover letters.
No, definitely. It's always useful just to see other people's CVs and just, you know, and this is the whole part of the course, is to share that knowledge and share the experiences from other people, what's working for them. On to the online testing phase of the process. So as a, you know, accounting grad, you must be pretty hot with the numbers side of things already. How did you find them? Was the numbers side a breeze and the verbal more challenging, or is that just a bit of a generalization?
No, I definitely found the verbal side of it more challenging, 100%. But what I would say the most important thing is just practice. So on the course recommends, and I think you recommended to me a number of sites where you can, you know, pay for the online test. And I would say it really is worth paying to do the test. So there are loads of different websites where you can get, you know, free versions here and there, but then you can't necessarily kind of track your progress, and the quality of the free ones isn't necessarily always as good. So I'd really recommend kind of choosing one of the recommended sites to practice the test. And then that kind of records your scores. You can check your scores over a period of time. And I would say, yeah, from kind of like September time, just kind of little and often I was practicing the online tests in terms of the numerical, the verbal reasoning, also having a little go at the games-based ones as well. So it really is just practice. I think even though I'm kind of quite good at the mathematical side, you know, with maths, you know, practice kind of does make perfect with that. So it really is just about putting the time in before you start applying, and all of a sudden, you know, because as soon as you apply, you get the test pinged back to you. So you need to start practicing for the test before you even start applying, really, just to make sure, you know, you're up to scratch and you're hitting that benchmark. So I think the majority I did pass, but there were a couple which I didn't, and also I did find the games-based assessments pretty hard as well, even though I did listen to the episode you did with the developers of those programs.
Yep. I did that one myself and failed it, so it was a tricky one. Did you apply to PwC?
I did, yeah, but yeah, I didn't pass those games-based assessments. So yeah, my girlfriend's got a job at PwC. She's obviously got the knack with those games-based assessments, but she couldn't quite tell me what that knack was. So yeah, I did fail those game-based tests.
And then I'm just looking at your tracker. So you failed as well for the Smith and Williamson one. Did that serve as maybe just a reminder of the need to practice?
Yeah, so that was probably about, I don't know, quite a way through the process. I'd already applied to quite a few and passed quite a lot. So I was kind of doing them on a regular basis, but I probably had stopped the kind of the practice. So, you know, really, really short amount of time for the numerical, and also the verbal reasoning I probably found difficult to do in that short amount of time. So that probably was kick up the backside I needed to put in the effort and make sure I was still practicing.
Yeah, because just looking at on the tracker, we've got the dates of when you did each application, and you can see in terms of the dates between the initial application and then the online testing, there wasn't one which was more than a week from the first application to needing to do the online test. So listeners, as Jack said, you don't get long. It's a maximum of a week to do the test. So it's no good if you only start practicing once they tell you need to do the test. You need to be practicing from August, September onwards, so that when you do get asked to do it, you're good to go and your skills are where you want them to be. Because if you're trying to frantically cram in all that testing into a short period of time, especially if you've got coursework and other things going on, it's going to be difficult. So maybe changing topics and thinking about that. So you're in your final year, or you are in your final year at the moment. How did you balance doing these applications, doing the work, getting ready for video interviews whilst you were still, because looking at the dates here, so this was, mid-November, you were doing the tests. It's October, November doing the video interviews. How did you find that balance?
Hard. It's very hard. I know a lot of people do wait until they graduate to start looking, but for me that wasn't really an option, because I just wanted to get straight into that graduate role as soon as I kind of finished university. So that was one of the lessons that I'd learned from the kind of the placement experience, is that I didn't start applying then until like 2-3 weeks into the first term of my second year of university. 2-3 weeks into the first term of my second year of university.
Mm-hmm.
And by that point, the work was starting and, the deadlines were coming thick and fast, really. So that was one of the reasons I knew between my placement and my third year, I needed to start thinking about it and kind of get the ball rolling. Obviously, kind of got in contact with you. But I think it's just important to make sure that, as much as you want to enjoy yourself over the summer, you do need to have an eye on it. And at least in September, those 3-4 weeks before you then start your course, if you are going to apply during kind of term time and not wait until you finish, you do need to start getting yourself prepared end of August, start of September, in terms of, those first, getting your CV, cover letter, thinking about what you're going to apply to, starting to think about, those general kind of interview questions. I think it is about starting early. And the other way that I kind of balanced it was, I in all honesty, I kind of did put my uni work a little bit on the back burner, just kind of getting by, doing what I needed to do, but then kind of use Christmas as a chance to really catch up with that work, because the recruitment process does tend to go quite quiet over the Christmas period. So it's just kind of timetabling in when I was going to do it, and also like we said before, because I was laser focused on those certain kind of tax accounting vacancies, it meant I wasn't just constantly applying, and when I had applied for one thinking, right, well, this other one's open, I'm going to do that. It was a bit more tactical, that I was saying, okay, this is open now, we'll get on with this one's open in a couple of weeks, I'll kind of stop for a little bit, wait to see what comes back, but also get on my uni work in the meantime.
Yep. And listeners, this is going to be different for each individual, when is the right time to apply. So for some people, the extra pressure and the extra work combined with all the university work means that for you it might work better to apply once you've graduated. That's cool, right? Do what is right for you. It is a stressful time. The work was piling up, and I know there was some stages, Jack, where there was a lot of things going on at once, wasn't it? And it was, from the outside in, it looked like, you were balancing a lot of things. So do what's right for you. Don't feel pressured if your friends are applying. If you've got too much on, then, don't try and do too much, because it can be, it can be a lot of things going on. Yeah,
it's definitely different for each person. And if you are kind of struggling with the workload and, you do decide, it was the best decision for me to kind of apply at the time. But, if you're struggling with the workload, maybe just pick a couple of vacancies which you're really interested in. And if wait until you've got more time, or, kind of take a year out afterwards. I was just conscious that, I'd done a year out before university and a placement. So I was quite keen to get straight into a graduate job. But it's definitely different for everyone. And I've got lots of friends who apply, once they've finished, and they've still got into really good graduate roles. So it really is down to the individual.
Definitely. And that's really great advice, is, pick one or two that you really want, and then see it as a dry run. Put good applications in and see where they go. So then you did really well with the online tests, got through the majority of them, and then we're through to the video interview stage. So was this the first time you'd done video interviews, or did you do them as part of your applications for the year in industry?
I did them as part of applications for my year in industry, but I definitely think I was a lot more kind of streetwise. I think I was a lot more kind of streetwise with what to expect and just kind of how to go about the process, because my preparation for video interviews before was kind of a bit all over the place, but definitely felt like that improved this time around.
Yeah, and as part of the course came with the credits for using the mock video interview tool. How useful did you find that, just doing the mock video interviews for each of the companies and then us going through them together?
No, very helpful, very helpful. It's when you're kind of doing a video interview, you kind of go through the answers, but then once you do it, you kind of almost forget like what you said, or kind of what your body language was like if you're actually looking at the camera. And that was just really helpful to go through and kind of decide, actually, I think, we made some adjustments. The lighting in the room wasn't really that good. Kind of moved the laptop higher, made sure that I was always looking dead center down the camera. And also just in general with the interview questions, just you kind of breaking it down and almost revealing the question behind the question and how to really go about it and give the answers and the skills that companies want. And once you kind of start to learn kind of that process and think about it a bit more, it means that you're a lot more likely to be successful.
Yeah, and it's good now. We can watch back from the first time you did it through to the more recent ones, and you can see the huge improvement. I mean, you're always really good, but yeah, you can see how you've definitely fine-tuned your technique. And you mentioned the eye contact and the body language are so important with video interviews, and also just the time management of making sure that you're finishing within the set time period. Yeah, you did that really well, and yeah, we're able to just do really well structured answers using the STAR methodology for the competence.
Experience talking to a camera, and it is quite hard to get used to. So I think that's really where the practice kind of pays off, because you get more comfortable talking to the screen, thinking about the timings of your answers, and you just kind of get more confident. Whereas when you first do it, it's a really strange kind of experience. And when I was doing video interview questions before, sometimes I'd give, 30-second answers. Sometimes I'd run out of time. And it's all about just kind of learning the knack. And, with a lot of these things, it is just the practice, and the tool that we used was really good. And I got to watch my answers back, and then hearing the tips from you really did help me improve with the level of my answers, and also just kind of like the body language, eye contact. Sometimes you're saying, I need to maybe lighten up and smile to get that, to show that personal side, but it is important.
And from the Big Four and the big accounting companies you're applying for, was it then tend to be competency questions you faced, or strength-based questions, or a mix of both, or more motivation? Can you remember the core themes from the video interview stage?
Big Four tend to be what they call a job simulation. So that entails kind of written answers to emails, kind of different verbal reasoning, kind of exercises, numerical exercises, but then also your video answers are kind of as in a response to a certain situation. So some of them I was kind of asked to introduce myself. You'll be given some information and asked to kind of come up with ideas, or kind of respond to different individuals and kind of display how you'd go about certain situations. So job simulation's a bit harder to go about certain situations. So job simulation's a bit harder to prepare for, but there's lots of great stuff you can find online about, those sorts of processes and what questions you might be asked. And then for some of the other top accounting firms outside of the Big Four, it tended to be strengths-based questions, and there was generally kind of 5 to 10 questions. I think some of them had motivation. So, why the firm, why the role? But then a lot of them were strengths-based questions, and a good way of kind of deciphering what questions there were was just by looking at the job spec and the strengths that they kind of list on there. All of those questions are based around that. So that's kind of was helpful.
And so looking at the timings for these, so the video interviews you completed were basically all in October. So probably a good time now to mention the dip, which I know probably most people on the course have gone through, which definitely came around sort of the late October, November time of the process where you've gone quite quickly from the initial application, online testing to the video interview stage, and then there tended to just be silence. So the recruitment process can be slow. During COVID and lockdown, it's sort of got slower. Do you want to maybe give listeners a taste of just this period and how it was to sort of go through it?
It was tricky. I mean, because I was focused, so as much as that is an advantage, because a lot of them were kind of the rolling process. So when things did get reviewed, I did get through, quite quick compared to others. It also meant that, they're kind of waiting to get enough responses to kind of judge kind of like the benchmark and decide, who's a good candidate and, where that line's going to be drawn. So it did take a long time to hear back. And that was really tricky, because you start to doubt yourself and think, have I really done a good job with these video interviews? What's going to happen if they all suddenly come back to me and say, sorry, and, I'm kind of left with not many applications left. So that was when, kind of mentioned before, I started worrying that, my uni work was kind of mounting up, and I started applying to, more finance-based roles and thinking about other options, to be honest, not necessarily because that was what I wanted to do, other options, to be honest, not necessarily because that was what I wanted to do, but it's just because you start to get worried about whether these applications are going to be successful or not. So there was probably about a 3 or 4 week period where I sent off a lot of applications, did a lot of video interviews, and I just heard nothing. So it was quite a difficult time.
Yeah, it is the difficult part of the process. And we did some webinars with the course members where that was just a topic of, and it was sharing people's stories of you're all going through exactly the same process here. Nobody's hearing anything. It was almost radio silence from all graduate recruiters in the, that November period, where, as you said there, you go quite quickly and then you just hit a stop. You just don't hear anything. It's not a yes, it's not a no. It's just a radio silence. And sometimes they were saying, oh, we'll get back to you in a few weeks. And then they weren't. Some people were just straight away saying, yeah, we'll get back to you within 3 months. And you're like, for 3 months? It is a difficult time. But as you said, you just got to be confident, just stick with the process and just keep going. But yeah, as you mentioned, looking at the times here, in that quiet period when you started then applying to the maybe smaller accounting firms, I guess, getting a bit worried, trying to hedge your bets and just get more applications in, which makes complete sense.
Yeah, and I'd like you say, I think that's where the support of the webinars really did come in handy, because, like you say, you're not in it alone. In terms of me at university, I had other friends who were kind of going, some people got through the process quite quick, some people hadn't really heard anything, or other people weren't really applying. So just to have that support of everyone who was in the exact same situation as myself, also not hearing anything as well, did just kind of put me at ease a bit more and enable me. Yeah, like you say, it's so quick through the online application. They send you the test straight away. That's usually quite automised. And if you hit that benchmark, you get sent a video interview. And I think generally I had to wait about, probably 5 to 6 weeks for most of them from the video interview to even hear that I was successful or not. So I think from what I remember last time, that is a bit longer than usual. But like you say, things are just delayed this year with COVID and lockdowns. Everyone's kind of working from home and in different situations. So it did just mean that this year things did take a bit longer.
Yeah, but there was one company that's just outside of the Big Four who were quite quick with getting you through the process, and you found that you'd made it through to their assessment centre. Do you want to maybe talk us through this assessment centre and what was involved and how you found it?
Yeah, sure. So
process, and you found that you'd made it through to their assessment centre. Do you want to maybe talk us through this assessment centre and what was involved and how you found it?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, they were really good getting me through the process quite quick, kind of constant communication with kind of when the assessment centre was going to be, what I needed to do to prepare. And yeah, for this one I had to do a kind of pre-work piece. which had to be about 500, 550 words, which is actually quite difficult because it was an informative piece. So it was quite hard to limit myself down to just 500 or 550 words. Yeah, obviously it was online. So I had to kind of present the work which I prepared for 5 minutes. They asked me some questions about that. And then we went on to about an hour long strengths based interview. So because it was online, they just decided to go for the kind of the pre-work and interview approach. So that was a good experience, but the interview was very, very structured. So it was strengths-based questions, but they didn't ask me why the firm, and they didn't ask me why the particular role, which I found quite strange. And it was quite structured, strengths-based questions. So it was a good experience, but it was also, if anything, I think I found that interview harder than some of the other ones that I've done.
Yeah, I was really surprised that they didn't want any of the motivation aspects at all, which is often one of the things that, companies really, really push on. And in, we'll get to the next assessment centre where it was maybe the complete opposite in terms of the style compared to this one. But you did really well, and you got the offer from this firm. So when that was before Christmas.
So because the strengths-based interview was so structured, I wasn't really sure how I'd done, to be honest, and I was actually nervous that I may not have done enough necessarily. So I had to wait, because it was just me doing that interview for an hour. They had a number of people kind of interview, so I think they had like one person a day. So I think I had to wait just over a week. And then, I received the call that, they wanted to offer me the job. First of all, they called me and said, we want to give you some feedback from your interview. And then they kind of went through the feedback and said, we'd like to offer you the role. So, just the relief to kind of secure the role at, a really good firm. I did, when researching into them, I did really like the company. That was, massive relief and great to get it before Christmas. So credit to them as well for getting me through the process so quickly.
Yep, and
for getting me through the process so quickly.
Yep, and it was never a doubt. I was always confident you were going to get this one. And I guess any sort of positive things to say about the firm. They're really quick through the process. They're sort of known for being one of the quicker companies, but you had really great interactions with the people you'd spoken to. Everybody was really positive. You were really excited about the role.
Definitely. I think one thing to mention that I haven't mentioned so far is that just kind of using your LinkedIn tip, James, contacting people from, your alumni at your university just to, politely ask them how their experiences at the firm, in that particular role. So I'd used that pretty much all of the firms I applied to, but once I had the offer, I actually got in contact with a few more people to kind of learn about their experiences at the firm and in the role. And it was all very positive, but it's just invaluable being able to kind of speak to people who are kind of there, because you're looking through the website, they're talking about their values and corporate social responsibility, all this stuff, but it's hard to know, what is that actually going to mean for me on a day-to-day basis in this company. So just being able to talk to people, on the phone is just invaluable. And everyone I've spoken to at that company kind of gave me a real good feel, and I felt like at the time, I did feel like it was going to be, a great fit for me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was all positive, and you're right. The LinkedIn tip really is a game changer. And listeners, to our link in the show notes, which today you can find at graduatejobpodcast.com/Jack. The link to where you can get hold of the 5 tips that you need to be implementing before you start applying for graduate jobs, which has details of what you need to be doing on LinkedIn. So check out the show notes over there. So one thing then, Jack, you've got this offer. You accepted it. You felt really good fit with the company. A big firm, not one of the big 4. And we had a good chat about this, about whether you wanted to actually go for the assessment centre. So I was trying to say, go along, see how you get on. But you were quite adamant that it wasn't right for you, and completely right choice. Do you want to maybe talk about this in a bit more detail and just your thoughts on why you didn't actually go for this assessment centre for this company?
Sure. So yeah, both the companies were kind of top accounting firms just outside the Big Four, kind of very similar in size and kind of reputation. And it was for the exact same role that I'd already got. And this was just kind of at the end of my university term. It just ended the week before. Leading up to it, I'd had obviously the interview with this other company, and then I'd had some tests and assignments due in at the last week of term. And then the following Wednesday from that, I then had been invited to this assessment centre. So I think I was just feeling, completely burnt out from kind of the application process, juggling university. And like I said as well, I'd also left a lot of work, which I knew I had to catch up with over the Christmas holidays. So I kind of felt that it was the right decision not to attend this assessment centre because there wasn't much between them. Like I said, it was the exact same job, same location. So I just felt it was the right decision for me not to do it, and because I knew I did have other assessment centres on the horizon. But I have to say, I did kind of, part of me did regret not doing it because I just felt, maybe I should have given it a chance. It's the assessment centre when you really get to know the company. Maybe they would have told me a lot of things that I would have liked to have heard, and maybe that would have changed my mind. But in the end, this turned out to be the right decision, but it definitely wasn't an easy decision. In the end, this turned out to be the right decision, but it definitely wasn't an easy decision not to go along. And definitely, and your point as well, in terms of just being more practiced with it. But yeah, the long and the short of it is I was just completely burnt out. I had an offer, it was very similar, and I just felt I needed a bit of a break and to kind of catch up with my university work. So it meant that I'd be able to have the time to really put my focus on the assessment centres I knew I had coming after Christmas.
Yeah, and it was the right decision, and because it wasn't just you needed to turn up at the assessment centre, you had pre-work to do. If you're going to do pre-work, you need to do it well, so there was going to be work and effort put in. And as you said, you were knackered, right? It'd been the end of a long, stressful term, getting all these applications in. We were putting a lot of work with the applications, plus all the coursework, and everything going on. You'd sort of hit the wall, and as we talked about earlier, you just know what's right for you. What's right for you is different to what's right for other people. So 100% the right decision. You were really happy with the offer. As you said, the roles were identical, location was the same, but you had a company that you really, really liked. So it was the right thing to do for you. So then we moved after Christmas, and at this stage you're still waiting to hear from a load of companies who have just been super slow. You're talking 2 months to get back from the video interview, or to say, yep, you've got through to the next stage, but we don't know when the next stage is, and we'll let you know. So there's companies sort of keeping you dragging on like that. But then you got through to the assessment centre for one of the Big Four.
Yeah. I think my video interview for this particular firm, I think I did in near the end of October, start of November. And then start of December, they then said, okay, we've got, you're through to the assessment centre, but we don't know when that is. So the whole time I was kind of waiting, is it going to be before Christmas? Is it going to be after Christmas? And then I got told on a Friday night, the email came through on a Friday night, and I think 5 o'clock, and it said, okay, we want you to come to the assessment centre on Wednesday. So even though I knew it was coming, it was still a bit of a shock and a kind of a bit of a tight turnaround for the assessment centre itself. But unlike the other two, I didn't have lots of pre-work to do, so it meant that turnaround wasn't quite as bad. Whereas with some of the other assessment centres, I did spend a number of days preparing with in terms of the work, and yeah, that was one of the reasons I decided not to do the one before Christmas after I got the offer, because that entailed a lot of a 20-minute presentation, which I didn't really have time to do justice, really. So yeah, it was a shock in terms of when this one did come, because it did keep me waiting for a long time. Yeah. But then when it did come through, it was very quick.
Yeah, so just looking at the tracker, it was the 19th of October you did the video interview, or the job simulation for, so what we're talking, 2.5 months from doing it to actually then hearing back. So listeners, don't be don't be put off, right? If you're not hearing back, it doesn't mean that it's a no, right? So these companies are slow and very slow at the moment. So if you've not heard back, then you're still in the process. So Jackie, you said you found out the Friday, you've got it for the Wednesday. So then we kicked into sort of practice mode and just getting ready for this. So what was involved with this assessment centre?
So it was a half day range of activities. It involved two group exercises, two individual activities, and a interview with a partner. So there was a lot to it. But like I say, the activities and the group exercises you couldn't prepare for beforehand. Really, it was just stuff that was going to be set on the day. So had a kind of a think and a look back on the course of how to prepare for group activities and these other things that I had to do. And we'd also, through the webinars, we'd done a practice group activity, so that was really helpful. Kind of just having some tips in terms of how to kind of approach whether to kind of take on, certain roles in the group. And if you do take on those roles, what to actually do. Yeah. And then the interview was, the main bit of preparation, and they provided me lots of information on interview, what might happen in the interview. Also researched online about kind of different questions that I might be asked. But in the end, it was quite a conversational interview and pretty enjoyable.
Exactly how you want it to be. So let's maybe break down the individual steps a bit more. So how did you find the group exercise, especially doing it online? People talking over each other, or was everybody all right?
I'm not sure if I was lucky or if it was just, if this is what it's like, but I was very worried about people talking over each other and how the online kind of process would work. But if anything, I think I found it easier online because, first of all, we were given information, but, you're also talking to people. So I split my screen. So on one side, I had my information. On the other side, I could still be listening to people talk. So that meant, while I was listening to people, I could also be kind of looking through information, making notes, thinking, that's kind of along the right lines or not. And then obviously, just to be respectful to everyone else, you're kind of really looking, making eye contact with what they're saying. But then you kind of lose track a bit of, right, okay, well, is that information, is that what they're saying correct, etc. So I found actually doing it online to be easier in that sense. And then no one in my group was trying to take the lead necessarily. We all got on really well, and it was okay. And in the first group exercise, I actually did take the lead in the end, but I didn't straight away. I waited to see if anyone else was going to maybe try and take control, or just to see if anyone was, going to try and be bossy and try and impose their ideas on everyone. But people just all kind of started talking, and it was a bit all over the place. So I did kind of just take the lead and just not necessarily direct everything, but just bring a bit of structure to the conversation.
Yep.
And make sure that we were hitting those points that they wanted. And no one really decided to take time either. So I was also taking the time in the activities. But one great tip that you'd said is, when you're taking the time, don't just say, 5 minutes gone, 10 minutes left, etc. Say, okay, guys, we've got 5 minutes left. Let's move on to the conclusion. Let's move on to this point, to actually, bring some value to that timekeeper role, rather than just stating the obvious of how long's left. Move people on, recognise when you kind of need to get preparing for the feedback and everything like that. So in general, the group exercises were very good. One person in the group's connection wasn't that great, and they were a bit quieter, so that was a shame for them. But I mean, we would still kind of try and give them a chance to talk and listening to them. But luckily my internet and everything. My internet and everything was fine. But group activities online, I wouldn't be too worried about it. And for me, it was less daunting than kind of being in a room with people, to be honest.
That's really good. And how did you find the individual exercise? Was it as expected, or any particular challenges with that one?
I think it's difficult just because of the time pressure. So one of the activities I had to read a lot of information, and I was helping someone from the company to prepare a magazine about technological innovations for this company's clients. So I had to think of questions to ask different individuals about kind of information I've been given. So in terms of reading the information and then thinking of good, effective questions to ask, the time was very tight. And with all of the group activities or individual activities, it got a bit or 3/4 of the way through, they would throw a curveball. So they would say, okay, they gave you 3 options, but then maybe with like 3 minutes left, they'd say to you, okay, well, there's now a 4th option. Please look at this one as well, and then tell us. And I was, on my first individual activity, I nearly pretty much ran out of time because of, the curve. There were kind of 3 sections I had to read, come up with questions for each. So I thought I had 12 minutes. So I thought, okay, 4 minutes for each section. And then they threw the curveball with like 4 minutes left. And I was, oh God, I've now got to, prepare another set of questions and I don't really have enough time. So I think, it's important to always leave a bit of contingency and be prepared for a shock. And then if there isn't, you're completely fine. But in the last individual task I did, I was kind of ready. Yeah, always go into it expecting, the unexpected, or for them to, try and make it a bit more difficult for you, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant advice. And expect the unexpected, definitely. And expect to be under time pressure. Expect to have too much to do in a small amount of time. And that's intentional, right? They do that to see how you react under pressure. Are you calm and adaptable and flexible and you can just roll with it? Or do you panic and, stop thinking clearly? So you have too much to do, expect to have too much to do. And as Jack said, expect curveballs to be thrown in the process. So it sounds, Jack, that you handled that really well.
Yeah, one thing I'd say, like you said, is just to stay calm. And at the end of my individual activities, I had to feedback. And I think for both of them, I was thinking, oh God, I haven't really had enough of a chance to, assess all this information and make a really good, well-informed decision. But, almost like split, I've been thinking about it, almost split second when they say, right, feedback. I just thought, right, I'm just going to go with this option and I'm just going to stick with it, tell them why, but then also kind of tell them some of the drawbacks, but not kind of be confused about, no, maybe I'll go for that one. I'll say, if you had to make a kind of decision, just kind of go with one, defend it, kind of let them know you're aware of just certain drawbacks, but still say why you chose to go with that. Because I think that really helps kind of being confident with the decisions that I made in those individual tasks, rather than kind of being a bit worried. Because in my mind, I was thinking I wasn't sure, but I was just kind of going with a firm decision, which I think helps.
No, that's brilliant advice, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for confidence. They're looking for you to be able to communicate clearly. They're looking for you to be able to think under pressure. They're not looking for the definitive answer. That's not what this is about. It's about putting you under pressure and seeing how you react. So what this is about, it's about putting you under pressure and seeing how you react. So really, really good advice there, Jack. So just conscious of time. So let's move on to the final partner interview. So you mentioned that this was really different to the one you'd had earlier for the non-Big Four firm, which was very structured. This one was a lot more fluid. And to be honest, it sounds like it was the perfect interview that you performed. Do you want to maybe just take us through this one in a bit more detail?
Yeah, so compared to the non-Big Four interview, like you say, it was much more conversational, and the partner just led the interview kind of where he wanted to go and where, and just what he wanted to find out more about me. And it all started with, him telling me a bit about himself, his background, how long he's worked at that company, what major kind of projects he's worked on. And then he just said, well, that's about me, tell me about yourself. So I think it's very important going into any interview to have a good answer for that tell me about yourself question. And then from there, I made sure that I got in, my experience, my skills, also bringing a bit of a personal side to it. Don't just kind of go down the completely formal route. Do bring a bit of, what you like to do in your spare time. And then he just kind of delved a bit deeper into that. He wanted to know a bit more about my kind of work experience. Yeah, just kind of asking me what I thought of that. And then the main part of the interview was he wanted to know what I thought my strengths were. And it was quite, kind of open-ended. So he just said, what are your main strengths? And when do you think you've demonstrated these? So, kind of went through what I thought my strengths were, how I thought that would help me in the role, and was interested in what I thought my weaknesses were and what I was doing to develop those weaknesses and how the company could actually help me develop those kind of weaknesses. And then on top of that, there were a couple of kind of strengths-based questions and, also, why do you want to work for the firm and why do you want to work in that particular role? But it was very conversational, and we even ended up having kind of a chat about kind of more personal stuff about football, all sorts. I think it's just important, as well as the answers, just to try and build up that rapport with the person that's interviewing you.
Definitely. And talking about strengths was definitely one of your strengths. We cover it a lot in detail in the course, in the sort of, the initial first part of the course. And I know you're going to maybe talk about this later, but he was really impressed with the knowledge that you'd gained about yourself in your strengths.
Yeah. We'll talk about it when I kind of recommend what book I'd say for the listeners to read. But there's a book called Strengths Finder, and that kind of asks you a series of kind of questionnaires and determines what your biggest strengths and your biggest weaknesses are. And also just kind of thinking more generally about, what my strengths were. And that's what actually led me to kind of applying for the tax accounting roles, because before I started applying, I thought, what strengths do I have? What do I enjoy doing? And then I kind of came to matching that up with the strengths that they said they wanted on the tax accounting kind of job description. So I was very aware of the strengths I had and the strengths that they wanted, which really did help in the application process. And just knowing how they want you to kind of apply those strengths in certain situations. So obviously Big Four, they want you to, got good communication and interpersonal skills. You need to apply that to say, good with working with clients, good kind of maths and mathematics skills. I'm going to be able to work out, and analyze information. So just knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, and kind of matching that up and just going from there, really. But it definitely did help, because it was kind of very open-ended, and not a lot of the interview questions I heard you couldn't necessarily prepare for beforehand through just, the usual competency, strengths-based structure. It was really just them wanting to know about you. So it's important that you're able to determine your strengths and weaknesses.
Definitely. And so the interview went really well. Walked away confident, and then a nice touch the next day from the partner.
Yeah, so I did feel confident about have I done enough in the group and individual activities, but the next day the partner gave me a call to offer me the job, which was absolutely fantastic. And it was a bit of a surprise, because when I finished the assessment centre, the HR team told me it could be, a week to a week and a half for me to hear. So when I saw that, it's just obviously just an unknown number, I was thinking, well, who's this calling me? And kind of, didn't really know. And then when I picked it up, I was just in shock. So to have that personalised touch, and I think it did really, really pay that. Like I said, not only did I kind of give really good rapport and relationship with the person who was interviewing me, but they actually wanted to kind of give me a call.
Never in doubt. So congratulations, Jack. 2 offers there, and so which one are you going for?
Going for, the Big Four. This is the choice. Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed the day. Lots of kind of acting lunch, really got to find out about the role in the company. And then also in the group and the individual activities, the people that were assessing me are going to be in the team and location that I'm going to be working in. And I kind of got to speak to them, and it's been really nice. So got a really good feel for it. So I'll be taking the offer from the Big Four.
Excellent, congratulations. So have you given the bad news yet to the other firm?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't. the partner at the Big Four firm's given me a ring, but I haven't had all the kind of contracts and documentation through yet. But once I get that, I'll be in contact with the other firm.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. So, job well done. Congratulations. You put the work in. You did really well. You invested in yourself. You did everything I could have asked, and it's paid rich dividends. So congratulations. You rich dividends. So congratulations. You deserve every success.
100%. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I would just say I did have experience in terms of the placements, and I did kind of know where I wanted to go, but just that the help of the course and of you, James, really took me from, a good candidate to, really one of those top candidates. And I may have been able to get to that level, by myself, but I'm not sure. And I think definitely the money kind of invested in the course and time of you really did help me to kind of get that Big Four offer. I'm not sure I would have got it without the kind of help and support of kind of the course and the webinars and everything else that came with it.
Ah, brilliant. I'm glad it's, that's why I put the time in, and that's what makes it all worthwhile. So thank you, Jack. Thank you for that kind words, and, thank you for coming on the show. But yeah, so kind words, and, thank you for coming on the show. But yeah, so much appreciated. So let's move on then to the weekly staple questions. So we've sort of teased these a little bit and given a bit of a advance warning of what some of them might be. But first question then, what one book would you recommend to listeners that they should read?
Yeah, so I mentioned it already, but it'd definitely be the Strengths Finder book. So that comes with a code to an online platform where you answer lots of questions about the ways in which you like to work, and also just generally how you kind of operate. And then it comes back with your top strengths, kind of describing what those strengths are, and also how to build on them. So that was really helpful, just to kind of get my mind thinking about my strengths. And then from there, I was able to sort of really think about the vacancies I wanted to go for, and also just more generally think about what some of my other strengths were. And I'd recommend that.
Brilliant, yeah, and it did impress people through the process. If you have shown that you've put the work and thought in. So, yep, links to Strengths Finder you can find in the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/Jack. And then next, Jack, what one website or internet resource would you point listeners towards?
I think the one which I probably found most helpful, kind of having alongside the course. So obviously the course provides you a lot of the information you need on how to be successful in, every kind of stage of the application process. But I think the one kind of website where I was able to get the biggest insight into interview questions and helped me the most with those video interviews was probably Glassdoor. So I would say, before any video interview, make sure you check Glassdoor, because a lot of people do put the questions on there, and obviously that's invaluable if you know what the questions are going to be before.
Glassdoor is a great site, and yep, it's well worth signing up, so you can find out. Forewarned is forearmed, which is why in the course we do make sure that people are sharing the questions that they're getting from the different video interviews, just so we can help each other through the process. And final question then today, Jack, what one tip would you give listeners that they can implement today to help them on their job search?
My one tip would be, we also touched on this a little bit earlier on, would be to narrow down your search. In terms of that is, just make sure you're kind of applying for similar roles, because not only will that save you time and stress, but it also mean that you're also, more likely to be successful, because, you're going through all similar roles have the same application processes. They want similar sort of skills. So it means that you're able to really sort of build on and improve every application you do. And I think, just narrowing it down a little bit to kind of a role or a set of companies in a particular industry will really help you be successful.
Definitely great advice, and a great place for us to finish the interview today. Jack, thank you so much for your time today, and all the best with your new role in the Big Four.
Cheers, James. Thank you very much.
There we go. Many thanks again to Jack for sharing all of his insight and experience through the application process. And good luck, Jack, with those final exams which you're going to be taking just about now. Now, Jack is a great guy, but I'm sure, listeners, he is no different to you. You are the sort of person, just like Jack, who chooses to listen to podcasts about getting a graduate job. You have plenty of choice out there for your time, and you choose to listen to me. And not only that, you make it to the end of a 1-hour show. Now that says something about you. It says that you're the type of person who is dedicated and committed, just like Jack was, and someone who wants to be the best as they look for a graduate job. It's a competitive market out there. You know that already. And if you want the best help, if you want 16 hours of video tutorial content, private members webinars, practice group exercises, practice video interviews, and to be part of a group of people sharing insight, knowledge, and the questions that they're facing at each stage of the process, then just like Jack, you need to sign up to my course, howtogetagraduatejob.com. As you can tell, he's happy he did, and you will be too. Check out the show notes at graduatejobpodcast.com/Jack, where I link to the course, the free LinkedIn guide that Jack mentioned in the show, and also details of how you can book a 30-minute coaching call with me where we can see how I can help you get a graduate job. That's graduatejobpodcast.com/Jack. Now, other course members have been just as successful as Jack and stay their stories very soon as well. Right, that is everything from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope to be welcoming you as a new member of the How to Get a Graduate Job course very soon. Speak to you next time.